So, good morning, Ross Womble. You are a peer supporter here at Texas Panhandle Centers, and I'm Sarah Northrup with Texas Panhandle Centers. Thought it was really important for us to have a conversation, really about co-occurring substance use and psychiatric disorders, because that's what I see as your specialty here at the agency. So, can you talk a little bit about what a peer supporter is? And what you do kind of day to day working with our clients.
Certainly. When people ask me that, what is peer support? I've never heard of this. I tell them in order to work for peer support, you have to have your own diagnosis. Your rap sheet is your resume in some ways. So your experiences that you have lived through, you bring into your job to let folks know where you've been, what you've done personally. Share your experiences and help support them as they're finding their own path to recovery.
And so it's not really like the professionals in the room or are really laying out what recovery looks like. You're a person who's actually walked in those shoes, and that's really what qualifies you to be a peer supporter.
Absolutely.
That, and also you go through a course, and you're actually a certified peer supporter.
Right.
And so what does that entail?
It's a week-long training. Yeah, you have to have your diagnosis, have been in treatment for a number of years, a couple of years usually is what we prefer, and then you go for certification.
Okay.
Training on basic person-to-person skills, and we provide a lot of IMR curriculum to folks, and we approach it from a very non-directive, like, here's some information, let's talk about it.
Okay.
'Cause we're not case management, we're not counselors, we don't want to be, that's not our job. We're here to help folks find their own path into their recovery.
And I think it's so very important that you have some lived experience, and so you're really, like you said, just walking hand in hand with the person as more of a navigator in terms of how to navigate a behavioral health system, our community mental health system, as someone who's experienced that in your own life.
Absolutely.
And that can be very different from what some of the professionals, like the case manager, our prescribers, anything like that.
Absolutely.
And so it seems that your specialty is working with people that have co-occurring substance use and psychiatric issues.
Correct.
So that's kind of hand in hand. Those two things happen together.
Yes.
Now, is it important to you what comes first, whether that's a person using substances? And when we talk about substances, that's alcohol and drug use. Is it important if that person's using first and then they have some psychiatric symptoms, or vice versa? Is that important when you're talking about treatment or meeting with people for the
Sure.
first time?
I like to look at it like, was it chicken, was it egg, does it matter?
Yeah.
Those two things hold hands.
Yes.
Because they're friends, unfortunately. So if it's more important to the individual, I've got these symptoms I'm dealing with, but I really would like to change my substance use. Well, okay, that's what we'll talk about. That's what we'll focus on. It's whichever direction they want to head. But for me, taking care of one or the other, they're the same in a lot of ways.
Another thing that's very vital when we're talking about peer support and substance use, are we just talking about abstinence with folks and just saying, here's the highway, this is the one you get on? Or what other types of approaches do you use?
Certainly. There are a lot of different avenues to get where we want to get. Some folks, that's what they want. They want to do abstinence. They want to go 12-step or something along those lines. Great, and I'll support you in that. But that's not the only way. I'm never gonna, give one of my folks a hard time if they went from drinking 12 beers a day to 6. That's
Right.
great.
Progress is progress,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And especially, when you're just looking at one day at a time and managing, mental health symptoms, medications, and also substance use and abuse.
Right.
So where is the person and exactly what are they willing to do?
Absolutely, yeah. One of the ways I like to look at it is a peer supporter is they're the captain of their recovery ship, and I'm just kind of the first mate.
Okay,
And
that's a great way to put it.
hey, I've been through this passage before, and there's some rocks over there. Just telling you.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for them. But hey, if that's the way you want to go, you're the captain.
And people know more about their own lives and their own symptoms more than we'll ever know.
Right.
And it's only what people are willing to share, what people are willing to do in terms of their recovery. And we talk about recovery in mental health terms, in substance use terms, and not just as a singular type thing. And we work with the whole person,
Absolutely.
not just pieces, and we carve out, and somebody else is responsible for helping them with others. Ross, how have you been providing services during the pandemic? Because I know that has really just turned everything upside down.
It's been difficult. Most of what we're doing right now is over the phone. We have introduced some very limited in-person groups. We're only doing 3 of those a week, when before all this we would have 2 a day in person. So that's been difficult for a lot of folks, and for a lot of folks this was their socialization. That was the reason to get out of the house in the morning. It's come up here, go to group, visit, see their friends. So that kind of got taken away from a lot of folks. It's been really challenging.
I think too, one of the things that I mean, being with other people is important for all of us. And I think we've all kind of struggled with some isolation. Our work life looks different. Maybe our personal lives look a little bit different, and we're a little more contained. And especially when a person is struggling with substance use and mental health issues, having those really limited, what is the effect it's having on people?
Yeah, we know that stress and boredom, relapse rates go up. And what do we got right now? A lot of stress and a lot of boredom. So we're seeing some relapse, which is really unfortunate. Folks, I know they don't want that. Nobody wants that to happen. It does sometimes.
So I had heard, and this was probably a little while ago, that alcohol use has increased almost 40% during the pandemic. And you and I would say, well, gosh, that's not surprising.
Right.
But I think what's also happening is not only with our clients with behavioral health issues, but people who work in the field, people who are at home trying to educate their kids. So I think we probably have some new people to the party, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And so what would you say to those folks that really have been wondering, gosh, is this a problem? Should I do something? What's the best way to approach that?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Well, people that ask good questions usually have good answers.
They do. They do.
So we'll ask you what you think. But I think if a person is concerned, is my use like a problematic way? There are lots of resources online.
Absolutely.
You can kind of do a little self-assessment and find out, okay, this is problematic. Maybe I should do something about that.
Right.
Talking to other people in your support network,
Right.
Just having an open, honest conversation. Like, do you guys think I'm drinking too much?
Right.
That's a good way to find out.
Absolutely.
People you really trust that can have that conversation with you. Talking to your healthcare provider, your primary care doctor. It's like, look, this is what my use level looks like. Does that sound too much?
Yeah.
So if you've got some concerns, talk to other people. A lot of times a good way to find out.
Agreed. Ross, you've given us some great information today. You are not the only peer supporter that works here at the agency, so you're one of many. So how many other people work in our peer support program?
So in Hardy Street, there's myself and 3 others.
Okay.
And there's also an individual in FEP.
Okay. That's our first episode program.
Right. And as far as I know, that's it, but I might be wrong. I'm wrong a lot.
Well, at least we're willing to admit that.
Yeah.
And this isn't your only responsibility at the agency. You also work in our integrated health program.
Correct.
And we're probably going to come back to you and do another interview so we can talk specifically about those kinds of things and what we're doing for clients with integrated health, which is again the whole health process, physical and mental health needs. Right. And so we're addressing that as well, and we're going to come back to you.
Sounds good. I'll be here.
Ross, thank you so much. You're just a rock star. We appreciate what you're doing and being a part of our treatment team.
Glad to be here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure.